Hello, and welcome to A Fan Reads, the official Star Wars fan club newsletter. Ooh, again, that is hard to get out. What? It is called Bantha Tracks, so I don't need to keep saying that. So again, welcome to A Fan Reads Bantha Tracks, cartoon contest winners. Earlier this year, the Star Wars Fan Club sponsored a cartoon contest. The rules were simple. Any member could enter by sending in one or more one-panel cartoons based on Star Wars. The entries were judged based on their humorous content and not on how well they were drawn. The first prize was an all-expense-paid trip for two to England and a visit to the set of the Star Wars sequel, The Empire Strikes Back. Oh, how did I miss that? Dang! Second prize was an all-expense-paid trip for two to the United States premiere of The Empire Strikes Back. Dang! Third prize was a set of 4 signed and numbered limited edition lithographs by Ralph McQuarrie and Joe Johnston. What? I don't even remember any of this. A panel of judges went through the thousands and thousands of entries and narrowed the selection down to 10 finalists. These 10 cartoons were then sent to George Lucas, who made the final decision. Third prize winner. Second prize winner. First prize winner. And now the answers to the previous episode's trivia questions. According to his uncle, what had Luke's father done during the Clone Wars? Piloted a space freighter. Where was the Millennium Falcon berthed in Mos Eisley Spaceport?
Docking Bay 94. 94.
What kind of ship did Luke use when shooting womp rats in Beggar's Canyon?
Placed a bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home.
And this one has an interview with Irvin Kershner, the director for The Empire Strikes Back. Alright, so let's begin. Last summer, prior to his departure for London, we interviewed Irvin Kershner about his background and about what he expected to encounter as a director of The Empire Strikes Back. The following is an excerpt from that interview. I haven't been able to find a lot of background material on you. Irvin Kershner: I'm an unknown man. I stay away from mass media as much as I can. It's a choice that I make. I don't think that people have to know about me. All you do is sell yourself, and I'm not interested in that. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into filmmaking. I was a musician first, a classical musician. I studied violin, viola, and composition. I played professionally, but decided that I didn't want to be a musician, so I went into painting and sculpture. Later, I decided I was not going to be a painter, so I turned to photography and became quite successful. I was being published and had exhibits all over the world. Then by chance I met Dean Crowan, the Dean of Communications at USC. He wanted me to teach there, so I started teaching photography. It was at USC that I became interested in movies for the first time and began taking courses. When was this? This was in 1949. I got into documentaries after that. I directed and photographed hundreds of them. Finally, I came back from 2 years in the Middle East making films and got into television. I did a documentary series on television, Paul Coates' Confidential File. It was the first real documentary show that was syndicated all over the country. This was on in about 1953, 1955. Then I made my first feature, Stake Out on Dope Street. That was it. I just started working and doing my thing. What brought you into doing features? They wouldn't let me in the cameraman's union, the editing union, or the art director's union, so I said there's only one thing to do, direct. I co-wrote a film, raised the money, and directed it. I used to travel with the Vice Squad for Confidential File, and I knew a lot about dope addiction and addicts. I thought, why not do a film that used my knowledge? It cost $30,000 to complete. It was a very successful venture. I just continued making films and tried to do my own type of film, which was outside of the establishment most of the time. What type of film do you think is your type? Up until about 4 years ago, my type of film was a small, intimate film, a film that dealt with social issues, human drives, and needs. Every director at one point coming out of the background that I came of, the university and documentaries, hopes for a film where you have a degree of honesty, a degree of truth. This was the kick I was on. It's much of the style making a realistic human film as it is making a Star Wars. They were both stylistic. One appears to be real and one to be hyperreal, but they are both simply a style. But you find that there is a small audience, and you cannot reach a small audience because of the large cost of advertising and distribution. The studio feels that for the same amount, you can sell something that is more commercial. So you decided that economics forced you away from the small intimate film and into more commercial? And the crazy way it took longer to make the small intimate film than it did the big commercial films. The Flim Flam Man took me 1 year from script through editing and distribution. The Luck of Ginger Coffee took me almost 3 years. I'm beginning to enjoy making bigger films and films for a wide audience. One of the reasons I did Raid on Entebbe with Peter Finch and Charles Bronson is because I wanted to work faster and reach a bigger audience. It was a 3-hour film shot in 32 days. Then I did Return of a Man Called Horse. I felt it was a chance to show the spiritual development of the American Indian, which had never been done before. On Eyes of Laura Mars, the script was developed before I came into it. I did a quick rewrite, then shot the whole picture and edited it. I'm working on my own projects right now. One of them is a huge film which takes place over 1,000 years ago and is full of recognizable characters. This is after The Empire Strikes Back? Right. How did you get involved with The Empire Strikes Back? George and Gary asked me if I was willing to undertake it. I thought about it overnight, thought about the pros and cons, and finally said, yes, I'd love it. I'm glad I'm doing it. It's a little harder this time because you've got a base that you're working from and that a lot of people are strongly attached to. Well, I'm respecting that base. I'm not walking away from it. All the characters are there. The story is really an ongoing story. The bad guys are certainly better defined. The base is stable, and we're just building another story. How do you expect The Empire Strikes Back to be different from Star Wars? As I said, the story is an ongoing one and has some new characters. It has a great deal of action. Well, we have a wonderful active ending also, which I can't tell you about, but it will be different. Do you expect The Empire Strikes Back to be a superficial picture? What's a superficial picture? Let me fold this. Absolutely not. It's a very profound picture. It's a very deep picture, but on one level it's beautifully simple, and on one level it's a delight. It's simple, it's clear, it's easy to read, and below that it's supported by some wonderful ideas and wonderful feelings. Some of the effects have never been tried before. They are not just spaceships going through space. The people are very well defined and interesting, including the robots. In the first Star Wars, you had to figure out who everybody was, but now you'll have instant recognition. Now I can play with further complexities of the characters. I can make things funnier more easily. I can make danger more easily because you already love these people. So I'm going to take advantage of the familiarity and use it. By the way, you will like the story of The Empire Strikes Back. It's very exciting. I guarantee it. I love it. Oh my God! How do you feel about the principal cast members? I think they're all highly individualistic. Harrison is terrific. I think that Mark has terrific qualities, ingenuousness, and eagerness. I think that Carrie is sweet and has an interesting strength, without being petulant. We do a lot more with C-3PO and R2-D2 and Chewbacca in this film, plus new characters and new creatures. George is very funny, and we've had a ball. We've had some great sessions and laying out things. He can get very excited. What do you feel about the science fiction field in terms of motion pictures? I happen to love science fiction, and I've been reading science fiction since I was a kid. I feel that in the past, science fiction pictures have not been done too well, except for 2001. Stanley Kubrick attempted something that no one else attempted, to do it right. Usually science fiction pictures have been cheapies and have been sort of little soap operas. There are often interesting stories. I think that 2001: A Space Odyssey was a very interesting science fiction film, so was Forbidden Planet. The Day the Earth Stood Still was good, current science fiction. At the time, it was a very good idea. The science fiction pictures that are uninteresting are the ones that depend on hardware, except for 2001. The ones that depend on ideas are exciting, and science fiction offers a way of probing contemporary problems, contemporary sensibilities, and doing them in such a way that won't frighten you because it's not the real world. So you can say and do and explore any area. Of course, I feel Star Wars is as much fairy tale as it is science fiction, even a little more, and that the fairy tale is a very exciting aspect because fairy tales deal with universal morality, universal concerns, universal emotions, and universal fears. And that's why Star Wars is so beautiful because it deals with those almost lyrical fairy tale aspects of experience. That's why in any country you can read and understand it. He's right, Star Wars is amazing. Well, the fans will be very pleased that you are a science fiction fan. I've read tons of it. Your background does not reflect science fiction, or, for that matter, much in a way of action-adventure film. But if you look in my films, you'll see some terrific action-adventure sequences. I have just stayed away from that type of picture, but I love to do action-adventure, and I certainly know how to do it. I have just preferred not to do them, and that's all. I like to get into people. That's important if you can capture the people at the same time as the action. That's what we are going to do. Now that Kirshner, now that Kirsch has been at work for several months, actually working with the cast and crew, we asked him to provide us with a final comment, one that might help us to understand the pressures he is under. This was his reply. To do a good story on film is a challenge. To make a world on film is a miracle. The other day, I found myself talking to my garbage pail. I couldn't understand why its top didn't close when I asked it to. That's hilarious. How about some Star Wars trivia? Who piloted the Rebel blockade runner? What are the Sand People's weapons called? The Mos Eisley Cantina was filled with disreputable characters. One of them tried to start a fight with Luke. In how many systems did he say he carried the death sentence? The answers to these trivia questions will be given on the next video. If you don't know the answers, that's okay. Just go see Star Wars again. Or ask a friend who's seen it a lot. Because how else would you get the answers? Let's see, what else is in the Bantha Tracks? Oh. The Empire Strikes Back Progress Report. Work on the sequel to Star Wars is proceeding at a dizzying pace, both at the EMI Elstree Studios in London, where principal photography has been taking place, and at Industrial Light and Magic in Northern California, where most of the special effects work is done. Principal photography began in Norway on March 5th, 1979. Norway. Why in Norway? On March 6th, there was an avalanche. While this avalanche did not delay filming very much, it did cause some difficulties. Instead of coming in via snow truck, people had to be helicoptered in. So there's snow in The Empire Strikes Back. Wow. After work was completed in Norway, the cast and crew returned to the relative safety and comfort of the English studios 17 miles outside of London. Production continued there for several months, finally wrapping in early August. Meanwhile, work on the construction and filming of the special effects is expected to continue until sometime in early March 1980. Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford are returning to recreate the roles of Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Han Solo. Also returning are David Prowse, who's Darth Vader, Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, Kenny Baker, R2-D2, and Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca. Joining our band of adventurers will be Billy Dee Williams as Lando Calrissian, an old friend of Han Solo's who now runs the mining colony of Bespin. Wonder what that's going to be about. The Empire Strikes Back will be released in London on May 17, 1980, and in the United States and Canada on May 18, 1980. There's something called Introducing Boba Fett. Not much is known about Boba Fett. He wears part of the uniform of the Imperial Shock Troopers, warriors from the olden time. Shock troopers came from the far side of the galaxy, and there aren't many of them left. They were wiped out by the Jedi Knights during the Clone Wars. Whether he was a shock trooper or not is unknown. He is the best bounty hunter in the galaxy and cares little for whom he works, as long as they pay. Part of what makes Boba Fett as good as he is are the special modifications he has made to his shock trooper's armor. Examine the equipment and you'll know what makes him the best. And they show it right here. I'll put the picture right there, Boba Fett. So number 1 is flamethrower and dart gun. Number 2 is rocket pack controls. So you better see the number 2. Number 3 is a rocket pack. Number 4 is camel view and finder. Camel? Camel view. 5 is grappling hook. 6 is digital life support. 6 is digital life support system readout. 7 is Wookiee scouts. 8 is utility gun belt. 9 is storage pack. 10 is knee darts. 11 is tools. 12 is climbing spikes. And 3, laser rifle. Add years of practice and experience to this list of equipment and you have quite a formidable enemy. Well, that's it for issue number 5 of Bantha Tracks. Until issue number 6, may the Force be with you.